An invasive species is an organism that causes ecological or economic harm in the new environment where it is not native. Invasive species can harm both the natural resources in an ecosystem as well as threaten human use of these resources. An invasive species can be introduced to the new area via the ballast of water, of ocean-going ship, intentional and accidental release of aquacultural species, aquarium specimen or bait, and other means. Invasive species are capable of causing extinction of native plants and animals, reducing biodiversity, competing with native organisms for limited resources, and alternating habitats. This can result in huge economic impact and fundamental disruption of coastal and Great Lakes ecosystem. An invasive species can be any kind of living organism. An amphibian, like cane, toad, plants, insect, fish, fungus, and bacteria. Or even an organism, seeds or eggs, that is not native to an ecosystem and cause harm. They can harm the environment, the economy, or even human health. Invasive species cause harm to wildlife in many ways. The direct threat and indirect threat. The direct threats of invasive species include preying on native species, outcompeting native species for food and other resources, causing or carrying disease, and preventing native species from reproducing or killing a native species young. There are indirect threats of invasive species as well. Invasive species can change the food web in an ecosystem by destroying or replacing native food resources. The invasive species may provide little to no food value for wildlife.
So, the sedimentary cycle is a cycle which comprises the weathering of an existing rock, followed by the erosion of the mineral, their transport and deposit, then burial. The first cycle sediments are characterized by the presence of less resistant mineral and rock fragments. If this material is reworked through a second cycle, the less resistant mineral will be eliminated or altered to more stable products. The more sedimentary cycle that a sediment has passed through, the more mature it will become, and it will be dominated by well-round resistant minerals. Some of the minerals that undergo sedimentary cycle are olivine, pyroxene, epidote, magnetite, clay, and quartz.
Now we're going to talk about phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus cycle is the process by which phosphorus moves through the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere. Phosphorus is essential for plant and animal growth as well as the health of microbes inhabiting the soil, but is gradually depleted from the soil over time. The main biological function of phosphorus is that it is required for the formation of nucleotides, which comprises DNA and RNA molecules. Specifically, the DNA, double helix, is linked by phosphate ester bond. Calcium phosphate is also the primary content of mammalian bones and teeth and insects. And by this, phosphorus cycle is totally important in our lives.
Humans rely on natural resources to continue living and doing certain activities for productivity. Resources are often renewable, but some are finite, which needs proper management and consumption of nutrients or minerals. Thus, sedimentary cycle and phosphorus cycles are studied to identify the factors which affect these resources that must be preserved accordingly. Sedimentary cycle proves to be crucial as it provides possible changes for minerals to transform into more resistant versions of themselves. Its purpose involves weathering wherein rocks and minerals are converted into simpler materials like soil, which is essential in supporting human life. The circulation of cycle is slow as some elements can be trapped in the reservoir in the Earth's crust of rocks. On the other hand, the phosphorus cycle involves the process of weathering or rain over time, which causes the rock to release phosphate ion or other minerals. Phosphorus is an important source of nutrient for animals and plants. The cycle is crucial to preserving the phosphorus resources as it can be distributed along sedimentary rocks and eventually transferring soil. Therefore, sedimentary cycles provide the necessary resources for humans to utilize or consume to continue an improved lifestyle.
Humans technically are not considered invasive species as according to the legal definition in the United States, invasive species are alien species whose introduction does or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm or harm to human health. However, there are some general aspects of an invasive species in which Homo sapiens can be considered as invasive species. An invasive species is widespread where humans can be found literally on every continent. An invasive species has to be a non-native, and humans are also considered in this category as humans colonized every continent but Antarctica about 15,000 years ago. An invasive species is introduced to a new habitat. Humans move themselves, so there is no outside entity facilitating their spread. Lastly, an invasive species had adverse effects on its new habitat and or on human health, and this aspect clearly defines the actions of humans. In the end, humans are still not invasive species by technicality. However, because of the actions done by humans, it harms the world and causes some species act on their own and becomes the reason why they are considered as invasive species.
Hello everyone, and I'm here to talk about how mining can be harmful to the environment. Mining itself isn't essential for people because this is where we get our minerals, our metal, our different ores that we use in our everyday stuff like buildings, jewelry, computers. Almost everything around us is composed of metal and iron and the different minerals that we need from a day-to-day basis. And basically, mining is really an essential for us, so we can't just basically stop from doing it. But it is harming the environment, it also harming the sedimentary cycle and the phosphorus cycle. But the way that it harms this cycle is not directly from mining, but it's from the lack of reclamation of the lands. So if we want to take care of the environment, we should do reclaiming of the lands so that the lands that we are mining aren't actually harmed and the habitats of the different animals aren't damaged as well. So this is how we can take care of mining and make it as something that is friendlier to the environment so that we may still have the needs that we get from the minerals and different ores and metals while keeping the land habitable. It can be free from landslides and other calamities so that we may have a greener environment, also that we can stay environmentally friendly as well.
Epigenetics is a Greek term which in literal translation means in addition to genetics. Epigenetics is a biology field that focuses on inherited changes in gene expression caused by mechanisms other than changes in the DNA sequence, particularly in animals, by modifying the gene expression rather than changing the genetic code of the DNA. It deals with the DNA interaction with smaller molecules in the cell, which can activate or deactivate genes. It seeks to explain how environmental exposures can modify gene expression and influence cell properties. Extensive research in this field would contribute to the protection of public health for now and for the sake of the future generation.
In conclusion, all of these aspects have great and important factors that contribute as to how the environment works together as a whole. All organisms are in need and are thriving for their own fair share of the environment. Regardless of human inhabitation, the environment and its organisms will still be able to function and perform its own natural cycles that help them survive and affect each other. Us, humans, above all else, should be the ones who should know better when it comes to sustainability in our environment. Human activities often cause more harm than good when it comes to our own ecosystem. As more and more human activities and other factors develop, these natural cycles would be interrupted and even more worse, halted. As individuals who are working together to help stop negative impacts to our own ecosystem, we should all help one another and do our own part in lessening and mitigating such of these factors and effects. As students like me and my group mates, we should all help each other and be an active advocate in protecting and promoting a sustainable living and being an active member in the society.